Welcome in, trainers. For those who do not know, my name is Me for Speedy Go, and I am the self-proclaimed Eevee Empire Queen. I typically stream my sets on Twitch, and this season we started off and did a little something different. So we ended up using a level 50 in Great League. Now I know Great League rotation has kind of ended, but these were some super fun battles and super close, and so I wanted to share them all with you. So getting us started off here, we have the team Sylveon, Umbreon, and Eevee. So definitely with this team comp, Azu in the lead, this is where we want to see it, and these charms are definitely chunking away at it. So with these charms, they only did 5 bubbles, so we're like, we know this is an Ice Beam. Sylveon is pretty thick, Umbreon's pretty thick. They swap into Skarmory after they realize, oh, Ice Beam doesn't do that much, but we just bring in Umbreon, which definitely can take this matchup if they do not have the certain shield advantage or energy advantage. We got a little bit of lag there, but Umbreon's still chunking away, making sure that no fast moves are coming through from the opponent's side, and we're just going to keep going. These are pretty long matchups, unfortunately. Throwing foul plays, don't throw last resorts unless you absolutely have to. Umbreon doing Umbreon things. Unfortunately, we did get a shield there, which was actually pretty nice. I'm personally not going to shield my Umbreon just because Sylveon can come in and do most of the damage anyways, especially at that range that the Skarmory was left at. So we're going to just lose switch here, and we're going to just come in and charm it down. So with that, we're almost at a Psyshock, and we are waiting for the opponent to bring in their next Pokemon, and they decide to bring in a Whiscash, which this is actually very difficult for this team comp. The Bud Boys do a lot of damage. Whiscash is very spammy with Mud Bombs, and Eevee's kind of a little bit one of the fragile ones, and it's what's left. So we're going to protect the Sylveon here, especially because the charms are doing a chunk. We do see that Azu come in though, so I will throw this Psyshock, and then I'm going to switch into Eevee just to try to see if I can't make it to a move on there. Try to get the Azu down. Unfortunately, I did not count here, so I'm like, oh, this could be a Hydro Pump, this could be a Last Play Rough, and it was an Ice Beam. Now we're doing a little bit more counting, so we're throwing on CMP, just because Eevee really can't take many of the moves. So he just lets the Azu go. Whiscash comes back in. We're gonna just try to do as much damage with Eevee as we can, and we also end up getting off at Last Resort. The opponent does decide to shield because this is probably going to be the last opportunity for them to shield. Eevee can take a Mud Bomb, but cannot take a Blizzard. So the Eevee goes down, and we see the Sylveon come in and charming them down. So then on to the next one. We have a nice Sylveon into Breloom, so we win this lead, and that's good because our back two Mons are weak to fighting. So I do want to try to keep that matchup. But also, Umbreon is weak to Charm as well, so I almost am up to move on the Sylveon, and then I bring in the Eevee because I can't really bring in the Umbreon on this matchup. So we're going to shield just to try to maintain switch as well, because if I did not shield there, the opponent could have decided that, oh, hey, we're going to just shield, and then we're going to just Charm this down. So we do throw the Last Resort, and we do maintain switch against this Breloom. So I'm bringing back in the Sylveon. We're going to get to the Psyshock. And these charms are honestly really chunking at this Breloom. So with the charms chunking at the Breloom, I was like, okay, this is fine. You know, we can probably bring in Umbreon and be 100% fine. With that all being said, Umbreon is seeing a Lapras in the back, which Lapras is a pretty thick Pokemon, but Umbreon is also equally as thick. And we do have an energy lead, so this is very, very important for the Umbreon to win this matchup. We also did get a Snarl in there. I didn't want to shield this first one just in case if it was a Skull Bash Lapras, which is very common in the Great League meta. And so with it being a potential Skull Bash Lapras, they didn't get up to that energy. So I was like, I know I can take this Surf. They start shielding, which is fine. We keep getting Snarls in, which is very, very important and is allowing us to gain a great energy advantage against this Lapras. So with that all being said, Umbreon doesn't need to end up using the last shield because the opponent never built up to potential Skull Bash, which would have made me very concerned to shield. And so the Lapras ends up going down, and Umbi still has a decent amount of health that if there was another Surf to be thrown, we would have been okay. So with this, now we see Sylveon into a Galarian Rapidash. So this is kind of, yeah, we're still seeing some of the crazy stuff from when starting out. But then we also see an A-Slash. So I'm immediately bringing in Umbreon. Umbreon's a tanky boy. He can definitely tank this. And we're doing some decent work on the foul play damage. Alolan Sandslash is kind of weak compared to its little baby counterpart for Great League. It's just a lot more squishy. The moves are different though, and they do give it more of a punch. So Umbreon is taking significant damage. So with that being said, with the significant damage, he's still able to throw out the foul plays and cause that damage back on the Alolan Sandslash. So with that all being said, it looks like it's going to come down pretty close, and I am unable to farm down the Alolan Sandslash. So I'm like, I have a whole bunch of energy on this Umbreon. I want to save it, and I got Switch. So then I'm assuming we are going to see that Galarian Rapidash come back in, which it does. So we're immediately starting to throw the last resorts. Psycho Cut really can't farm us down, and those last resorts do a decent amount of damage. So I'm like, they're probably going to throw. They win CMP. Umbreon does not win CMP against anything in the Great League, really. So we're coming back in Sylveon, and we see a G-Fisk in the back. And G-Fisk, any steal for this team is very, very, very rough. We do have Dig on the Eevee to try to counter the steals, but there is also both shields in play for the opponent. So I'm like, I don't know what to do. So we did end up getting a shield from the Psyshock, which was very, very crucial. So I'm sitting here like, okay, this is another Rock Slide. My Sylveon can live. We're going to try to save the shield for the Eevee. And the Eevee comes back in. I was really worried that I wasn't going to be able to make it to a move. We just know this is another Rock Slide. It still does a lot of damage, and we still have to deal with that Galarian Rapidash. So they bring that in. They do take the Eevee energy, and like the Galarian Rapidash goes down, but we still have to deal with this G-Fisk, and it's like, well, we have a Charmer in the back. I really want to make sure that I can throw this move. Maybe try to make it to another last resort. That's probably not gonna happen, but we're gonna try. Unfortunately, so the G-Fisk does shield, and they immediately throw. So it was probably a CMP tie. So with it being a CMP tie, we see the Sylveon coming in, and the Psyshock ends up going off, and GG's to our opponent. It does actually end up killing the G-Fisk, which at that low health with the Sylveon, and once I saw that come in, I was like very, very worried. So now we see an Alola Marowak lead, which I'm assuming they probably have a fighter in the back because they're weak to steals in the front, or it's because they're weak to darks in the front. So I bring in the Eevee, just maybe trying to see if we can't drag it out, but they're like, oh, we're gonna just stay in, you know, like this Eevee, like what's this person doing? So we are gonna go for the dig against the Alola Marowak. Eevee's just kind of being, unfortunately, a sacrificial lamb in this case. We do get to the dig successfully though, and it does go through. So that does a whole bunch of damage to the Alola Marowak. They do end up farming us down, which is pretty bad. So we're bringing back in Sylveon, I'm pretty sure, to... Oh no, we do bring in Umbreon. We bring in Umbreon to make sure that we can farm it down. They can't really do much to us. I'm very surprised that there isn't a fighter in the back of this team comp, but there is a Charmer, so that does make sense. It is a counter to the dark types, but we also have our own Charmer as well, and we do have some energy on this Umbreon. But we don't really want to take those charms, so we're going to switch out, and we do see another Evolution friend, Leafeon, and we are just going to try to throw the charge moves to try to make it down, and it's getting a little tight. We also still have 2 shields in play for ourselves, but because it's a Charmer, I know I'm probably only going to get to 1, or the Wigglytuff is only going to get to 1 move, so we're using a shield there The Wigglytuff does have a shield in itself, so we're going here for a very, very risky bait. I didn't think I was going to make it to enough last resorts to try to kill it, and luckily the bait was successful. And we make it to the next last resort to try to kill the Wigglytuff, and it ends up going through. So that was very close, very well played by our opponent. So as we get into this next one, we see Sylveon into Talonflame, which is really not the world's greatest matchup. So we're going to switch immediately into Umbreon. And they're probably just staying in to Brave Bird and Dip, but we're going to at least try to throw some damage at the Talonflame because we know if we get it low enough, we can charm it down. They actually end up shielding, so we at least drag out one of their shields very early on, and they just end up flame charging. So I was like, well, maybe they're just going to stay in this matchup, so that's why I decided not to shield there. And I'm sitting here like, they could be a Brave Bird. It was unfortunately a flame charge. We're close. We're going to just keep throwing foul plays at this thing, trying to get it down. They do actually end up double shielding this right at the beginning. So I'm assuming I'm probably going to let my Umbreon go down because with that, Talonflame can be charmed kind of at that range, especially for Great League. Ultra League, it's a little bit more bulky, a little rougher to try and charm down a Talonflame. But we can take the damage and like at least get it down. Unfortunately, because they did double shield it, they are being able to make it through at least one of our back Pokemon, and we do see a Swampert come in. So I am a little worried about Sludge Wave, but because we have the energy from that Talonflame, we're able to make it to the Psyshock before they can make it to a Sludge Wave. And I swap out my Eevee trying to save my Sylveon. And also, that Hydro Cannon does hurt the Eevee still. It definitely would have hurt the Sylveon as well. And we do see its friend Umbreon come in. We do have our Charmer still, so we're still in a pretty good spot. But they do have that Talonflame in the back that they are able to sack on, or potentially even try to get some damage off. So with the Eevee's got to unfortunately go down here to foul play. It's not super bulky, like I said. They did fill up the 2 very quickly and very smartly as well. But they throw a foul play at the Charmer, which I'm assuming they maybe might have last resort. They do try to come in and get a Incinerate off, try to get a move on Talent, try to catch. They were unsuccessful, so we were actually killing Umbreon with the Psyshock. So they were probably very close to another move, which would have taken out our Sylveon. So that was very close and very GG's to that trainer. So the next matchup, we see Sylveon into Jellicent, and I'm like, oh, this is a little rough, but like I said, Charm is definitely chunking away at this. They're only going to 4, so we do know that they are Bubble Beams, and we're just gonna try to chunk away as much as we humanly possibly can. I'm still throwing Bubble Beams, so I'm like, okay, we're not super worried. But I am also thinking, you know, maybe there's a fighter in the back. Jellicent is kind of okay against Steels, but it doesn't really like G-Fisk. So we're still trying to take it down. We do sneak in a Charm. And with that, it's still another Bubble Beam. They don't realize that this is not a Wigglytuff. So we're going to try and farm it down. We do see the Medicham in the back. But luckily, since it is a Medicham and it is Psychic and fighting, the foul plays are able to go for neutral damage. So we're just going to start trying to spam out the foul plays. And we still have our Sylveon that we can come in with and charm down. So with this, we're still trying to just keep spamming them. Unfortunately, they're getting some counters in. But with the speed at which Umbreon can throw foul plays, and they do not have Dynamic Punch. That is not typically a very common move on Medicham, even though it does have the ability to learn it. So we are able to just keep spamming. We actually do get a shield here. I'm like, I don't want my Umbreon farm down, so we're bringing in the Sylveon, and we get one away. So poor Sylveon goes down to that fast move from the Pidgeot. And so I'm like, well, we really don't have much health on Umbreon. Eevee's gonna try and take it here. So I'm thinking this is probably a Feather Dance, but Eevee is already taking a large amount of damage from the fast move. So we are just trying to keep it up as long as possible and try to get to these last resorts. So with the last resort going off there, the Pidgeot's still kind of sitting healthy, and we're just going to try to make it to another one. We do make it to another one, in fact, before the Pidgeot is able to farm us down. and we do get their last shield, so I'm immediately swapping out because I'm going to try to get to a move before the Pidgeot can make it to 2 moves. They actually do Brave Bird here, which was a little interesting. A Feather Dance would have been enough to try to make it to the fast move down and at least get the Eevee down. And the Jellicent comes back in, they automatically throw. They just threw Phobal Beams in the beginning, so maybe it's a single move Jellicent. But the Eevee is actually able to quick attack down the Jellicent. So it was very, very close, very well played. So on this next match, we see Sylveon into a Mew. So I'm sitting here, I'm a little worried because Mew is weak to dark types, so typically there is a counter in the back. So we're just going to keep trying to charm down. Debating if I should shield here. It could have been a wild charge. It was actually a Surf. So we just keep going. I tried catching the next Surf, assuming that they were probably going to try to bait again on the Umbreon, but it was actually, in fact, the wild charge. So we see a Mandibuzz come in, which this is actually Air Slash variant, which is kind of very interesting. Since with the Air Slash variant, you can get a pretty close Umbreon matchup and you actually flip it because you're doing fast move pressure along with the charge move pressure. Umbreon is just going to be taking these buffs though. I've already used a shield, so I really don't want to use a shield here. So we're just going to keep trying to spam through the last resorts and just trying to do some damage on the Mandibuzz. At least we have a Charmer, so it can kind of get down. A little bit of lag there. That's fine. I know Umbreon's super thick, so I'm just hoping he kind of holds it out here and we can get off this last resort, which Umbreon lives with plenty of HP to make it to this last resort. So we're doing perfectly fine. We swap out, which they swap out into their Mew as well, maybe trying to see if they couldn't make it to another move, which then we also see a Vigoroth come in, which Vigoroth has the fast move of counter, so we really do not want to see them. So with the fast move counters, we're just gonna be like, the Eevee does not want to see that, so we're gonna try to protect our Charmer. We're gonna try to protect Sylveon and see if we can't get the last shield, maybe try to throw a last ditch, last resort at it, and we do get the last shield. So we do have a second Umbreon, we have a full health Eevee, and we have our Sylveon going down here. So, but this Vigoroth is a very, very, very low, so we're looking pretty promising. And we also do have a lot of fast move pressure with the Eevee coming in. I was gonna try to sack there, unfortunately I was off on my count. Eevee takes a body slam, not very comfortably though. Well, we're able to fast move the Vigoroth down, and we are actually at a last resort for that Mandibuzz in the back. And so Eevee is able to complete and able to take out the Mandibuzz, even though he kind of was stuck up against a not so nice, like counter user there. So also too, now we're seeing the Swampert in the lead again. Like I said, Mudboys is a little rough for this team. So we're just trying to deal as much charm damage as possible. I'm concerned that's Sludge Wave here, so I do end up shielding, and I am correct. So it is a Sludge Wave, which they have a Scarm to pair with it. We're going to just try to do a little bit of chip with the Psyshock and switch into our Umbreon, especially because we can fast move down the Swampert now. So Umbreon is going to be a good boy here, going to try to spam off these foul plays, try to run out this matchup. Also too, our switch timers are desynced a little bit, so I do have that in mind just in case there is another Pokemon in the back that could potentially harm a fighter. We do actually see a Brave Bird there, so I'm going to try to farm up a little bit extra just because he's already like planning on losing this matchup, which makes sense. But then he actually shields, which is very interesting. I know my Umbreon can take another Sky Attack. Brave Bird at this range can't, but we could Charm down. So then we actually see that Swampert swap in immediately afterwards, which it is going to be taking a foul play to the face. We're actually going to bring in Eevee just to try to get a little bit of energy because probably our Charmer is not going to get there. So then we see this knockdown. Eevee or Umbreon is our sack in this opportunity. And we see the Eevee go for the last resort. It does actually about half the damage on the knockdown. So we're in a pretty good spot. We're probably going to just let Sylveon try to charm everything down. Eevee's being such a good sport here. We're actually going to make it to another last resort, threatening the last shield on this knockdown, which we do end up getting. So, but unfortunately, our Eevee's getting farmed down. We technically have a Umbreon for a sack. But I end up, the switch timers were not up, so we're just going to shield from this knockdown. And with that being said, they do make it to another move, which is very, very concerning because I still kind of got to deal with the other Pokemon in the back, which is a Skarmory, but we're able to charm that down. The Noctowl comes in for one more wing attack, and that gets charmed down as well. So very, very close. Steel Bird is a little rough, but we were able to make it. So Sylveon versus a Raichu, a Kanto Raichu. So this is a little worrying matchup just because Wild Charge does do so much damage, and they also do a lot of fast move pressure as well. We get a Charm in, so if they even throw the Wild Charge, that Charm is going to do some damage. So they do throw a Brick Break, I'm assuming for a bait. But we do see another Noctowl come in. Wonder if this was like very common. Maybe someone made a video on it. But we see a Psyshock being thrown from the Sylveon. We're just going to try to stay in to do as much charm damage. Maybe save the Sylveon for just in case there is a fighter in the back. We're going to just let the Sky Attack go on the Umbreon because Noctowl's other moves are definitely not going to be thrown at Umbreon. And Umbreon is just going to take these like a champ. So with that all being said, we're going to start throwing off some charge moves of our own with the foul plays. And with that all being said, Umbreon, like I said, he's a champ. He actually gets the last shield from our opponent. So maybe he's a little weak to this in the back. Maybe a psychic type in the back. So Umbreon is, like I said, he's just doing a champ. He's just doing a champ. And with that all being said, it takes another Sky Attack, but we do make it to another foul play. And we still have a full health Eevee and a shield. So, but Umbreon is able to snarl it down. I'm immediately switching into Eevee, which we see a Frost Glass on the back. So yeah, it was pretty weak to Umbreon. We do have technically 2 sacks, but our switch timer is so out. Eevee is going to have to try to take it here. So Eevee is able to make it to the dig, which this is, like I said, this dig was meant for the steel types, but I guess it can be used here. He's going to do his best. We're going to try to make it to the last resort just so that there is ability to have a little bit of damage with another last resort. We are unfortunately CMP tied and Frost Glass wins that. So we have a Sylveon that's very low. We have an Umbreon that's almost dead. So we're going to try to bring in the Sylveon and charm it down, but it does actually make it to a third charge move. But that Umbreon fortunately has enough health that we are able to try and snarl it down. So GG's to all of our opponents. Super fun battles. I loved playing with a level 50 Eevee on stream. If you have any suggestions for what to play on stream or where to check me out, links will be down in the description down below. I hope you guys enjoyed.